Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Hugh Sawyer. You are a member of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, and you are one of the many rail workers right now that, subject to approval or rejection, have tentative agreement that has been agreed upon with the rail carriers above you for a new deal. I know you have some strong thoughts on that. Just to give an update to the audience, today the Machinists Union, their their leaders reached a tentative agreement with the rail carriers. I read that tentative agreement. I'm not a rail worker, but I don't think it will be very popular based on what I read. But I wanted to ask you, Hugh, a lot of the workers actually haven't even seen the tentative agreement, or it took a while to see the tentative agreement, even though Biden and the media declared this done and over with. Have you seen the tentative agreement, and what are your thoughts?
I have seen the tentative agreement. It has not been put out to all the membership. I think it was put out to the general chairman, who sent it out to local chairman, and it got shared in that manner. So I have seen the tentative agreement for the engineers. As I understand it, they're in a Q&A session with the general chairman. In other words, the general chairman will send in questions and create answers. The national will create answers to those questions, and that will become part of the tentative agreement that is sent out to the membership for a vote, which I understand is going to be on or around October 15th.
Okay.
I have seen the agreement, and many have. I mean, it's been shared around quite a bit, and I am not impressed. And they spent 3 years really coming up with this, and contrary to putting lipstick on a pig, this accomplishes nothing that the rank and file are interested in.
And can you kind of give us some of the, kind of bullet notes on what they're offering?
Well, if you'll remember, allegedly we were held up. They had this emergency meeting, and Biden participated, and they hammered out over 20 hours overnight. And the holdup was allegedly sick days, which is critical. And this agreement does not have sick days in it. There's no sick days. What there is some language about for people on unassigned or on boards or in positions with unassigned off days to give a 30-day or more notice 3 times a year to the carrier that they need to attend a doctor's appointment on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And they'll be provided those 3 opportunities per year to go to a doctor's appointment. Well, that's not a sick day. You don't get sick 30 days in advance, and so on and so forth. Also, there's other language in this agreement that creates off days, assigned off days for the pools and extra boards. So it renders that part moot, right? In other words, they'll have alleged assigned off days. So let's talk about assigned off days. I work on Norfolk Southern. I work between Atlanta and Chattanooga, and I actually sort of work already under some of the provisions that are in this tentative agreement. I have to bid in a job weekly, and I'm on a pool job, but this pool job has assigned off days. My assigned off days this week are Tuesday and Wednesday. Guess where I'm at? I'm at my away from home terminal in the hotel, taking rest. I worked up all night, arrived here in Chattanooga at 9:30 this morning. I'll either go out late this evening somewhere around midnight or somewhere thereafter, and I will work home on my second assigned off day. Now, when I get back to my home in Atlanta, I will have 48 hours off. And but guess what? Those weren't the assigned off days. So if I made doctor's appointments, I've missed them, right? So you cannot make a plan with this you know, alleged assigned off days. So
Also, I mean, it's kind of absurd. Sure, can you call 30 days in advance for schedule of physicals? Yeah. But if you, God forbid, find a lump somewhere or something more urgently, you got to go right away. You can't wait 30 days.
exactly. And now take heart, guys, because in here, if they happen to hospitalize me, they won't hold that against me. But you know, if I go in and let's just say I have the flu and I go to urgent care and they ascertain that's what I have and they give me Tamiflu and tell me to take rest for 3 days, that's held against me. That's an attendance violation. So it's ludicrous. The way, let's just talk briefly, the wage increases. Oh, that sounds great, right? They do nothing but do what they've all, well, they keep up with inflation maybe over the lifetime of the agreement. And, you know, we've been treading water in this regard my whole career. And it's ridiculous. But the main thing is availability. They didn't address availability. They didn't address what a full-time worker is. And so the carriers, as we know from BNSF, their high vis policy, they essentially want to control 90% literally of your life. So this is what the younger people in particular are not putting up with. I mean, I ride every day with different people on these trains, and every one of them says, you know, they'll be looking around for another job. I think a lot of people, in fact, are waiting on the back pay. They may vote for it just to get the money part, you know, the back pay, and then leave. And but for the people who actually were planning on having a career out here, they're pretty livid over what we did not get.
It seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, for forever, all the railroad carriers have had the leverage. But as we saw this time, I mean, President Biden, his administration were scrambling. They were concerned if there was an imminent strike, it could wreak havoc on the economy. The supply chain is already still, messed up from the pandemic. So the railroad workers had leverage here, but the union bosses seem to, I don't know, fold under pressure or what. What it seems to me now would be the exact right time to strike. Obviously, nobody wants to see economic harm, but at the same time, you got to strike while the iron's hot. Why do you think they agreed? So I don't want to say quickly. Obviously, there's been negotiations, but it seems like the time to strike was when they agreed to this tentative agreement.
Well, I agree with that. I think our union leadership is, I mean, they spent 3 years and this is what they came up with. When they went to the PEB board, and keep in mind, they're governed, everybody, we're all governed by the Railroad Labor Act because of our economic impact on the economy. We're closely regulated. There's very strict procedures on how negotiations go. And keep in mind, we can still go out on strike. If the membership votes this down, votes no, we can go back out, go on the strike line, or the union leadership can renegotiate, better terms. And, but, what they presented to the PEB board, their list of demands, if you will, from the union side, they watered it way down from what their alleged bargaining positions were at the negotiating table. They were talking about a 40-something% increase in pay. And but when the ask from the PEB board was 28%, the ask from the carriers, I think, was 18%. So of course the PEB, met in the middle on that.
Right.
The unions brag about we're not increasing deductibles and out-of-pocket pay. Okay, so that's great, which is fairly high co-pays. I pay 10% of the bill, and I have a $4,000 out-of-pocket limit. I mean, that sounds like a lot of money to me. Plus, currently, I pay $228 a month, a monthly contribution. And all we apparently asked for was to just freeze that $228. We didn't ask to eliminate it. Now, I'm a Teamster. The BLE's part of the Teamsters. We're the only ones that pay. Yeah, your typical Teamster contract has zero monthly contribution from the employee. It's pathetic. And you're essentially talking about doubling. Oh, they're going to cap it. We got 2 more years in this agreement. So at the end of the agreement, I won't pay more than $398 and some odd cents maximum out at monthly contribution. Well, that's almost doubling my monthly contribution.
Right.
And I mean, would you give me a break?
And also, they're huffing and puffing about this 24% pay increase. I don't know if you can see that, but I mean, that's just wages, first prices, January 2021 to May of this year. That blue line going up is the prices, and you got wages under that and real wages all the way at the bottom there. So when you factor in inflation, the consumer price index, healthcare costs, like you said, I don't really think you're getting a 24% pay hike.
Heck no. And it's going in the direction. That chart's a great, if you were to expand it out over the last 34 years I've been out here, I'm sure those lines would look exactly right. The real money in our wallet has been going down for years. And for the lifestyle that we have to live, we used to be fairly highly paid, and we were paid for the sacrifice to family life and time at home and all that. That hasn't been the case in a long time. It's not adequate compensation. Our meal allowance on the national agreement, I think, is stuck at $8 and $8 if you're away from home less than 12 hours and $16. That's maximum. If I sit up here for 24, 48 hours, which happens, that's all that I'm going to get under the national agreement. Now, I have to say locally, under a local agreement, I get $12 and $24, but $15 is what I spend on one meal typically.
Right.
So why don't I have what a flight attendant has? Flight attendant gets an hourly prorated. I don't know, years ago, I don't know what they're getting today, but the Delta flight attendant was getting $2.20 for her meal allowance from the time she went on duty at her home terminal till the time she went off duty at her home terminal. I think the IRS allows you $60 tax-free a day. That's $2.50. That's what I ought to be getting for my meal allowance, $2.50. That's not even in here.
Right. And I want to read to you, I know this isn't you, but this is the message from the Machinists Union bosses to their workers, explaining what's in this tentative agreement they just agreed to. And this kind of stood out to me. Overtime. For the first time, we also got the carriers to agree to a joint study on overtime, forced overtime policies, and overtime meal options. I mean, I just assumed railroad workers got overtime. I guess I assumed wrong. But they're selling a study on overtime as some victory?
Oh yeah, apparently. Now, I'm not a machinist, so I don't know the details of what they currently have and what that is. Yeah, but that's typical. Oh, we'll study the issue. Now, going back to my agreement, there's a lot of stuff that they're going to fast track availability. Turning the pools into self-sustaining pools. That means there's no extra board protecting them. Right now, if I mark off of my pool job, they call an extra board engineer to fill that position and send the job on out. What will happen under this, and this, and it's subject to binding arbitration, things are going to happen very rapidly. They're going to create all these self-sustaining pools. They'll eliminate extra board positions, and when I mark off, my job will just go to the bottom of the board. And wait, and then the next guys in line will go out. So if I'm 6 times out and 4 guys ahead of me mark off for whatever reasons, wow! All of a sudden, I thought I had a little bit of time go grocery shopping, go out to dinner with my wife or whatever. Whammo! Now I'm second out, right, and subject to being called. And it's the people that are on. We call these chain gangs in railroad lingo, and the people that have them, and they exist, say they're miserable things that you do not. That's a reason to vote no right then and there, and so on. And then they want to assign to mainline people. The engineers are governed by mileage. You can't make over a certain amount of mileage. They have to add a man to the pools or whatever. This eliminates that, as I understand it, potentially, and there'll be starts, and they want you to have 11 starts in 14 days. So,
right, gotcha. And what does it say? I mean, literally, Biden presented this as some, a victory for workers. I mean, these carriers are making billions of dollars, billions in profit. And I mean, as far as I could tell, these tentative agreements don't provide paid sick leave.
nope.
I think I saw 1 day maybe.
That's not a sick day. That's just another personal leave day.
Right.
If you want to talk about personal leave days, under my current rules where I work, I have to put in a request to be off at least 48 hours in advance, and it has to be approved by somebody. And right now, the computer system's set up to automatically reject it. I then have to go to a train master or road foreman, local supervision, and beg them to approve my off days. And often they're not, because their boss said, you're not going to let these people off, and create a worker shortage. Well, we have a perpetual worker shortage. So
right.
These personal leave days, which are in lieu of holiday pay, by the way, when I work on a holiday, I get nothing, no extra money. But I get these personal leave days, but I can't take them. Unlike my fellow Teamsters on the UPS who have the UPS drivers who have the equivalent thing, and they just call down there the night before and say, I'm taking tomorrow off, and hang up the phone and, get to use their personal leave days. So.
What are your thoughts? I don't really care what your politics are, but you got Biden. He calls himself a union man, but he is selling rump roast as some type of victory. Obviously, the Republicans don't give a damn, but this seems like, crumbs, really, when.
Hey, it got Joe Biden through the midterm and the Democrats to the midterm elections. Mission accomplished. The fact is, I don't believe there was a tentative agreement in writing when he had made that statement. When it was announced, I don't think they had anything in writing right then, and they probably continued to negotiate thereafter and come up with the written agreement that we now have. I don't see what to me, the companies get everything they want. They get automatic bid scheduling. Okay, so I can't claim jobs. Okay, if I'm a younger man, I'm on top of the barrel. So when I want a day off, I just bid to a job that has some off days that I want. I can move over to them. But for everybody else, they can't claim vacation vacancies. They can't claim temporary vacancies as they could before, and go to another job that had some off days that they could be off. That's all gone. They have to bid in a job, and that's the job they're stuck on for that week. And there's not a lot of movement because people go to the job that they stand for, the best job they stand for, and that's what they're on. And so it eliminates, again, it's a tightening of the screws, eliminating the ability for us to create off days when we need them, and just become essentially the slaves of the railroad. Single day vacations. I can take vacation 1 day at a time, including that new day. I can use that as a vacation day, but there has to be a slot open. If I determine, for me, often it's last minute. Hey, let's go to this concert or something, or let's go do this thing, and I can't do it. There's no provision for me to just call down there and mark off. use a personal leave day or whatever. I used to be able to, if I marked off sick, I could then, after I came back to work, put in for personal leave days to cover those sick days, the days that I was off sick, and use them in that manner. In essence, at least put a halt to that. So they won't let me use these days. It sounds wonderful on paper, but none of it's wonderful if they won't let you actually, use these things in ways allegedly intended.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so there's no attendance, there's no improvement on attendance policy. We have no say in them. It's whatever the carriers want to impose on us. The problem for the carriers are, at least where I work in my district, is they beat people over the head. They've dismissed people and all that. But now they've done it so much, and now people don't care. I don't care what your attendance. They just mark off, and fire me. Maybe because they don't have anybody. Right now you're not going. It's hard to fire somebody when you already have a big manning issue. So.
Right. Absolutely. My last question. Obviously we can't. We don't have a crystal ball, but it seems to me there is a chance of a strike. It seems to me right now the only thing happening is they've bought some time to kind of extend what they call the cool down period, which is the period for negotiation. But it seems there could potentially be a strike as soon as right after the midterm elections.
Yeah, exactly. After the midterm elections, November 15th, I think, would be the earliest that we could do it. But okay, so we go on strike. It's hard to renegotiate an agreement that you've already sort of agreed to. And I don't know how much. I mean, here's the thing: the economy, the stock market will go down on day one of a rail strike. And if the rail workers are upset enough, and I have to say, I've never seen so much unity across the crafts on this. If we go on strike and stay on strike, I think that's where we would really have some power. Now, Congress can step in and impose the agreement on it. Typically, they'll impose the PEB board recommendations, what have you. But if the Republicans take office on January 3rd, and if all this somehow extends, into that time frame, they might impose the carriers. Of course, if they do that, that really will be an end of the rail industry, because there's so many people will walk away, and I think a lot of people are going to walk away anyway.
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
It's not worth it anymore.
And you're
there's
hearing
lots of good jobs that don't.
You're hearing from some workers they might quit.
Yep. Now I talk extensively to conductors, and lately I've been working with a lot of the youngest people, the extra board people, and they definitely say they're not making a career of it, not planning on making a career of it. And if these attendance policies get more draconian, then they'll definitely be out of here. They're just simply not going to put up with it. And you can thank the pandemic for this. I don't know what happened in the pandemic, but it woke up this entire country, at least the labor force, that, you know what, there's life other than work, and I'm going to have it. And I think that's going to be a major problem for a lot of corporations in the future. It already is. I know, and the Georgia Power Company has, they'll start you out as a laborer for $30 an hour, basic labor, but you're going to work the night shift, and they require you to work, I think, 1 week in a month, or be available to work 1 week in a month, or what have you, and they can't keep people on that basis. So,
right.
That's
absolutely. Hugh Sawyer, thank you so much for taking the time. Definitely want to stay in touch so we could keep the audience updated, because if there is a strike, it might not be all 12 of the unions on strike, but even a few. You're talking tens of thousands of workers potentially on strike heading into the holidays.
Well, we'll all honor any strike line that is popped up. So if one craft goes on strike, we'll essentially all be on strike. We'll hope for the best. And if I may, Jordan, I'd just like to tell everybody, go to railroadworkersunited.org and sign up for their newsletter. It's the best news feed around for, updates on this issue and all the rail issues, and it'd be of interest just to the general public. So,
absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks again. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.